Hello and welcome to this reality check exclusive. The Election Commission in a state of paralysis, it would seem, over repeated comments by the Prime Minister invoking the Balakot surgical strikes to seek votes. Let's first bring in context. The strikes have been a central part of the Prime Minister's speeches right through this campaign season, despite multiple notifications from the Election Commission warning that politicizing the armed forces violates the model code. Then on the 9th of April, in a rally in Maharashtra, the Prime Minister made his most explicit appeal, linking the Pulwama attacks to seeking votes.
मेरे फर्स्ट टाइम वोटरों को, क्या आपका पहला वोट पाकिस्तान के बालाकोट में एयर स्ट्राइक करने वाले वीर जवानों के नाम समर्पित हो सकता है क्या? मैं मेरे फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर से कहना चाहता हूं कि आपका पहला वोट पुलवामा में जो वीर शहीद हुए, उन वीर शहीदों के नाम आपका वोट समर्पित हो सकता है क्या?
Now, a complaint was filed to the Election Commission. The Election Commission sought a report from their local official who reportedly found the Prime Minister's speech violated the model code. That report has been sitting with the Election Commission for the past 2 weeks. Today, a top official in the Commission told me that there will soon be action. When I asked soon, meaning what? He said, we will not wait for the election to end. He also said poll officers were still collecting details. But as NDTV's Arvind Gunasekar found, the complaint against the Prime Minister is missing from the list of all the complaints up on the Election Commission site. Scrolling on the screen next to you, 426 complaints have been listed with a status next to each. But there's no sign of the 9th April complaint. When Arvind checked with the Election Commission, they had no explanation for why in this entire list there was no mention of the complaint against the Prime Minister. In another twist, when the complainant logged in to check the status of his complaint, it came up with a resolved message. Resolved, it said. On the screen you can see. But the Election Commission told Arvind that it is not resolved and an IT glitch is to blame for the wrong status. Meanwhile, as the Election Commission prevaricates and as confusion shrouds the status of this complaint, the Prime Minister and Amit Shah continue to openly politicize the strikes in speech after speech.
आज भारत एयर स्ट्राइक करके आतंकवादियों को घर में घुस करके मारता है, अंतरिक्ष में भी मिसाइल दाग सकता है। ये सब मोदी ने नहीं किया है, ये आपके एक वोट ने किया है। आए दिन हमारे पास न्यूक्लियर बटन है, तो हमारे पास क्या है भाई? ये दिवाली के लिए रखा है क्या? તેમણે વિમાન ઉડાડ્યા તો આપણે તરત ધમાકો કરી દીધો ને એમનું એક પાડી દીધું. આપણો પાયલોટ પકડાણો તો આ લોકોને તો જાણે બગાસું ખાતા પતાસું આવી ગયું. એમને થયું કે હવે અમારો પાયલોટ મોદી જવાબ આપે. આગલા દાડે આટલું મોટું બધું પરાક્રમ કર્યું, બધું બાજુમાં એક સાથે 12 મિસાઇલો હુમલો કરવાનું કરીને ક્યાં કહ્યું હતું? પરિસ્થિતિ ગંભીર થઈ જાત. આ સારું થયું કે પાકિસ્તાને पायलट ने पाछो मोकलवानी जाहेरात कर दी थी, नहीं तो ये रात कत्लनी रात थी।
आपके वोट की ताकत है कि सेना के जवान एयर स्ट्राइक कर सकते हैं। आपके वोट की ताकत है कि 3 मिनट में अंतरिक्ष में जाकर के हमारी मिसाइल दुश्मन के सैटेलाइट को गिरा सकती है।
हमने घर में घुसकर आतंकियों को मारा है, आतंक के सरपरस्तों को साफ कर दिया है। हर आतंकी के मन में ये डर है कि अगर उसने कोई गलती की तो ये मोदी है।
पुलवामा के अंदर हमला हुआ, हमारे 40 जवान शहीद हो गए। वायुसेना को हुक्म किया, हमारे लड़ाकू विमान, हमारे जांबाज सिपाही पाकिस्तान के घर में घुसकर बालाकोट पर हमला कर आतंकवादियों के फुर्चे उड़ाकर वापिस आए। पाकिस्तान के आतंकवादी घुसते रहते थे, अपने जवानों के सर काट कर ले जाते थे। ये मौनी बाबा मनमोहन सिंह उफ नहीं करते थे, उफ नहीं करते थे। पाकिस्तान के घर में घुसकर बालाकोट के आतंकवादी अड्डों पर बम गिराकर आतंकवादियों के फुर्जे उड़ाकर वापस आए।
All right, let's go to panel. Let me first start with Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, former Northern Command Chief, as well as somebody who was part of the first surgical strikes and who's also been advising the Congress on their national security strategy. General Huda, thanks very much indeed for joining us. It is with great distress that we have to keep returning to the subject because, as we just pointed out, despite the fact that the Election Commission has issued these guidelines, despite the fact that several retired generals and soldiers have written a joint letter saying this should stop, it continues unabated.
Vasu, it's really not my place to talk about the election commissioner and what he's supposed to do. But I do want to raise a larger issue. And the larger issue is, the fact that the military is getting pulled into this political discourse, that the military is being used to win political arguments. I think, and I hope, ultimately it doesn't do damage to the military itself. And I'm going to talk about two issues. First is the credibility of the military, and the second is the capability. Why do soldiers serve in these challenging conditions, extremely harsh conditions on the borders? Is because they feel, that there is faith and trust that the citizens have in the soldiers.
Right.
A recent Lokniti survey showed the army as having the highest trust in the country, 88%, while the political class got minus 55. Over a period of time, the reason that the citizens trust this army is because it's seen as completely apolitical, it's seen as completely professional. And by dragging this army into this political discourse, and we are seeing now, some people are also raising questions on statements by senior officers. I just hope, this trust that is there doesn't get diluted. And my second point is,
yes,
it could harm the army's capability development. It's fine to say don't question the army when the air chief, stands up and says we've launched the airstrike. I think he shouldn't be questioned. He's an honorable man. He will say what actually has been done. But if we take this point too far and say don't question anything about the military,
yes,
then we are not going to be able to question why the defense budget is the lowest in GDP terms since 1962. We are not going to be able to question as to why army equipment, almost 70% is in the vintage category, why the Air Force doesn't have squadrons. We need to ask these questions.
Right.
Otherwise our own capability development is going to get harmed. So,
okay. You said, General, you said two important things. Let me just take you up on each of them. The first is you said that you're worried that this may actually impact the credibility of the army, that this is actually leading to a certain kind of politicization of the armed forces. You are worried about whether this could happen. But is it already happening?
Vasu, the army is completely, the military is completely apolitical. So we've always maintained that stance. But increasingly, you are seeing, discourse on both sides. Some saying, we have great faith in the army. There are also, I've seen articles coming out and saying why serving senior officers have come and made statements like this. So certainly, there is this divide over what the army is doing, what the leadership is doing. I think ultimately is not good for the military itself. So the more that you keep it out of your political discourse, the less such arguments will come up in the media and elsewhere.
Let me ask you about something else. When you talk about capability, that generally the norm has been that political leaders, and especially on an election platform, do not talk about India's strategic capabilities, what we have done, what we could threaten to do, so on and so forth. We had a situation, and this is actually in one of the clips that we just played, where the Prime Minister actually invoked the nuclear button, saying that Pakistan keeps threatening the fact that they have the nuclear button, we have it as well. It's not just sitting here for Diwali. What did you make of that?
See, nuclear issues are extremely serious, and these are not things to be talked about so lightly and casually. I mean, these are weapons meant for deterrence, and deterrence means that you send your ability to be able to deter the adversary quietly and in a sensible manner. These are certainly not issues for political speeches and to be bandied about so lightly.
Okay. And lastly, I want to ask you that, General, that where are we heading with all this? Because if this is going to be the tone and tenor of the election campaign, and it clearly doesn't seem to be stopping, then at the end of this process, where does this leave us with this Lakshman Rekha which existed so far between the civilian authority and the armed forces? Has that line, I wouldn't say it's been completely demolished, but has that line, has that fence been severely strained?
Yeah, it has, Vasu. And while the election commissioner has a principled stand on this, I wish he steps in a little more to make sure that the military doesn't get dragged into the discourse. And as I said at the beginning of the show to you, I hope it doesn't end up, and this is what is a message for the politicians, that it shouldn't end up damaging this very professional and very credible military force that we have.
Right. General Hooda, thanks very much indeed for joining us. We'll let you go. Jyoti Malhotra is here, Editor, National and Strategic Affairs, The Print. Geeta Bhatt, political analyst, if I may say so, a BJP supporter, is with us on the show. And we also hope to be joined by Jagdeep Chokhar of the ADR very shortly. Can I just start with you, Jyoti Malhotra, that this business about the EC's baffling silence. First silence, then some indication we got today saying action, but then as we found, the complaint itself is missing from the website.
It is very odd, Vasu, that this complaint is missing, and as you said earlier, it's the statements made by Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah, the BJP president, that somehow, for some reason, the Election Commission has not been able to take action. We see that they have taken action against other leaders, whether it's Yogi Adityanath of the BJP, then you've had Mayawati, you've had Azam Khan.
Yes.
But somehow the Prime Minister and Amit Shah are beyond the Lakshman Rekha. So obviously there is some fear. We don't understand, or we don't understand what it is. It might be unjust for me or unfair of me to say that they are fearful. But we don't know then what it is.
What is the problem? Geeta Bhatt, the point is that it's really a situation where why do we need the Election Commission to even come in, given the fact that we're talking about very senior responsible leaders like the Prime Minister and Amit Shah, and the Election Commission advisory, I'll just hold it up on screen because I don't think people have understood its import clearly enough. It very clearly says that candidates, political parties are advised that they should desist as part of their election campaign from indulging in any political propaganda involving activities of the defense forces. Geeta Bhatt.
Yeah, Srinivasan, as far as I understand and as was shown, in your program, when Prime Minister asked to vote, he was asking to vote, to pay a tribute to the martyrs of Pulwama attack. Now, you see, when you go for a rally, you have to talk to people in a language that they can understand, common people, when they can understand and which they can relate to. So when you ask for for a vote for the to vote for the martyrs, it is basically asking to vote for such type of a political organization which is ready to look after and fight for the sovereignty of the nation, and which keeps the national interest, which gives the priority to the national interest
Geeta, that's politicization.
of the country. So these are the kind of just let me complete. So you see, these are the kind of so it is basically with this thought. Now the point is that is it that it was some kind of a maligning language which was used in it? Was it lewd? Was it communal? Was it sexist?
No, that's not the issue.
It was not in that order. The way we have seen other political parties spokespersons doing.
Okay, Geeta,
At
sorry,
least
that's
it
deflection.
was not like Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Geeta, no, now you're deflecting and I'll have to jump in.
Using the word thief.
Sorry, you'll
and
have
also
to.
using the.
I'm sorry, I'll have to
trying
jump in because you're completely
exploit the
deflecting.
use of Supreme Court.
You're completely
that they
deflecting.
Have endorsed,
You're completely deflecting. Nobody is saying that the problem with the language was that it was communal or it was sexist. The problem was that it is politicizing the armed forces, which is not allowed. The Election Commission says it's not allowed. So then why is the Prime Minister doing it?
So you see, I do not understand that where is here politicizing of the armed forces would mean when someone goes and asks and says that it is because of that the forces are working as per the direction of a particular political party. If one tries to take vote on that name, when
Yes.
you are asking for to vote in the memory of the martyrs of this nation.
Yes.
Any other political party could have done. Why the others are not doing it? It could have been a great leveler. I do not understand why the other political parties cannot relate to the martyrs of the of
Hold on a
Pulwama
second.
attack.
I
They could
just
have also gone and asked.
My head is spinning here. You're saying that it's politicization if a political party was to come and say that we are responsible for the army's actions. In fact, that's exactly what the Prime Minister and Amit Shah have been doing. They've repeatedly been saying it's because of us. We have ordered these strikes. We are taking credit for it. Vote for us. Don't vote for the other guy because they were wimping out. That is politicization, and that's not allowed.
See,
I don't know. I can't. I mean, I don't
then-
understand. How can one make it any clearer?
Can I come on that? You see, when the American soldiers, they went to the Middle East or went to Afghanistan, I mean, is it that you put either the credit or the blame to the American soldiers? No, it is always the leadership that you talk about, isn't it? So it is just the same everywhere, that if there is the political will to take to be decisive,
Right.
when there is an attack on the sovereignty of the nation, so the credit goes to the political leadership. I'm sure you will agree to that. And even in 1971, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi had gone and won the war, the whole credit was given to her leadership.
So again, I don't understand. There is an Election Commission guideline. Either you accept it or you're not. In case you say you reject the Election Commission guideline, you say it's not valid. But you can't have it both ways. Jagdeep Chokar, if I can just bring you in, the Election Commission, and we've come to this again and again, but the Election Commission's silence, inability, inertia is now becoming a big problem. And as we've just pointed out, it's not just the inability to act, but now we don't even know what has happened to the complaint against the Prime Minister. Have you as ADR, you've worked with election commissions in the past, you've observed their conduct during elections. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, I guess each situation is unique, but in this case, it does appear that first of all, the Election Commission's Council actually said in the Supreme Court that we are powerless. And then the Supreme Court said, if you are powerless, then we will tell you what your power is. And then the Election Commission seemed to wake up with a start and did a kind of a flurry of activities. But after that, again, there seems to be reluctance to take action against certain individuals or certain positions in power. There seems to be a sense that some people are above the law of the land. And in this case, I would mention not only the Prime Minister, but also perhaps the Chief Justice of India, what we saw recently. So there is a serious question on, does the rule of law apply equally to everyone?
Right.
And that is the question that should worry us in this case also.
Because, just coming back to Jyoti, what you were saying, we'll actually put that graphic up on the screen because the EC has chosen to, in a sense, go behind bureaucratic reasoning, saying that, it takes time to process these complaints and so on, even though this complaint has been sitting with them for 2 weeks. But if we look at the time that they took to act against others, we
like
actually...
Sidhu, for example.
Like Sidhu. Let's just put that graphic up on the screen because there, the turnaround time was much shorter. So, in the case of Menaka Gandhi, it was 4 days. In the case of Yogi Adityanath, 6 days. Same for Sidhu, 6 days. In the case of Mayawati, 8 days. In the case of Prime Minister, 14 days and counting.
I think that's the point. And even, some of the arguments, if you hear and sort of sources in the Election Commission, people will say that he is the Prime Minister and therefore he is talking about the armed forces, and they deny the politicization that you talk about, and which General Huda talked about actually.
Yes.
And which he acknowledged and said, yes, there is creeping politicization of the armed forces. Now, but the point is that even if by a huge stretch of the imagination you could argue that as Prime Minister he is doing this and taking credit, although the words that he uses ki hum ghus ke marenge, Pakistan ke andar ghus ke marenge, and the exact same words are also used by Amit Shah, the party president. Now, he therefore cannot be in the same category as the Prime Minister. So why isn't the Election Commission taking action against the party president? I think
so. It's almost like not just one, but two are insulated.
I think that's what it is that, that's what the big question mark is, that even if you can argue that the Prime Minister is exempt because he is Prime Minister, but why would a particular party president be exempt?
Right. Yeah, Geeta Bhatt, even if for a moment, if you want to put aside the Election Commission's notification, you just heard General Huda. Before that, we've had, and I'm just holding up this letter once again, just as a reminder, this was a letter signed by over 150 veterans, many of whom have actually served as chiefs of army staff, which was written to the President of India. And they said it's completely unacceptable of political leaders taking credit for military operations like cross-border strikes, in addition to media pictures of election platforms and campaigns and so on and so forth. As a party, as an ideology that supposedly respects the armed forces, what do you make of this?
Well, Srinivasan, General Huda also mentioned that, when the spokesperson of the armed forces or the Air Force, when the Northern Commander came and he spoke and he told about the operation, there were, those statements are also questioned by opposition party leaders, doubting that what they are stating. So he even objected to that is very wrong. That is also politicization. I am just telling you that General Huda said many things. Please have the patience to listen to me the way you are listening to others.
Okay, but you have to answer the question. So, I'm listening to you.
No, I am coming to that. I am saying since you mentioned General Huda, so I thought it is important to mention that, and I am also coming to the letter.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, there was one of the army chief, one Air Force chief came out and they said that we did not I agree to that letter, but our name has been included in that. So there were a couple of people, and some of them have, this is a free country, those are veterans who had written that letter. It is respectable, but please do understand there are lakhs of veterans of armed forces who are in this country, and out of that a few of them had written and shown concern.
150 plus.
Now by doing so, what we saw, what did the Congress party do? They started circulating the letter on the Twitter handle, and that is when the politicization of that of this issue had started, because they wanted to politicize this. They used that letter and tried to create a narrative based again on the armed forces. The very purpose of that writing of that letter was lost.
I see. So the fact that the letter is asking essentially the BJP's leadership not to politicize the armed forces, that you're saying you don't have a problem with that. You have a problem with the Congress circulating the letter.
The way,
explain again the logic of that. Isn't the main message from the letter stop
it
politicizing
is interesting to
the
note
armed
that
forces?
they mentioned the Bharatiya Janata Party in that letter, but they forgot to mention that there are people like Urmala Matondkar who were holding Wing Commander Abhinandan's huge placard on the car and moving all around Mumbai. Somehow it did not come in their notice, but
Okay,
that's
so if
okay.
that's wrong, how does that take away from what the Prime Minister is doing? How do two wrongs make a right? Both are wrong, surely. No?
You see that is what I am trying to say here.
What?
That when the opposition political parties, why do not have that confidence and have a constructive campaign where they go out to the people and say,
Okay.
you see what they did, what this government has done in Balakot. This is exactly, I mean, if we come to power,
Right.
we are going to be, much, coming forth in protecting the sovereignty of our nation.
All right.
Why couldn't they come out with this kind of a constructive campaign, which sadly is missing?
Okay, we're going over, I'm told. We'll have to leave it there. I'm not quite sure of the argument you just made, but from all indications, it appears that this is not going to stop. This is going to continue. And as long as the Election Commission sits quiet, then I guess this is how it will be for the rest of the campaign. We'll have to leave it there. That's it on Reality Check. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.